you want to have the right mentality regarding your buyers and where they're coming from, all right? So I have this document up here that we can kind of start off with, and that is, you know, working with buyers and showing property. You need to know timing and motivation of your buyer, okay? So you may not know the timing or motivation of your buyer right off the bat. Maybe they just want to go look at a property and you said, okay, I'm going to show you that property, but you still don't know what their timing and motivation is yet. All right, so you're not in control. They're controlling you. So it's okay to be out of control, but you want to always try to take control of the situation as you're going through the situation. So these are questions that you should have with you, and you should know these questions so that you can ask them at any time during dialogue, during the showing, during dialogue when you're talking with a buyer ahead of time. This should just be normal conversation for you, and it should come out naturally. So number one is, when would they like to move? If you don't know when the customer wants to move, it's something that you need to ask. You need to make sure that you're aware of that. That identifies motivation as far as timing goes. Do they need to sell a property before they can buy? You got to ask this question, because sometimes people start looking, but all their money's tied up in their property. And if you find them the perfect property, they can't buy it because they have another property to sell. And if other property's not on the market, then we need to talk about things in a different order. Sure, I'll take you out and still show you some houses, but let's work on getting your property on the market if you got to free up the equity to be able to buy something. Because everything I show you today will not be available tomorrow. So we want to get your property sold before we go out and start taking a look. But a lot of times people don't want to look until they see that there's something out there. I'm sorry, they don't want to sell until they see that there's something out there that they can, once they sell, they're going to like better. And so the problem that you have with that scenario is what they find that they like may not be available when it comes time for them to buy once they've sold their property. So timing is going to be a big issue on getting that accomplished. You know, are they looking to be in this area, or are they looking at other places? So is there competition for this particular area? If I have a buyer that's coming out of Ohio and they're looking in, let's just say Sarasota, and then they're also looking in Naples and Fort Lauderdale, I don't have a buyer that has sold themselves on Sarasota yet. I mean, they're looking at other options, and I'm out showing them houses, and they haven't even made a decision on a town. So when I recognize that people are looking in other communities, in other towns, I'm gonna make sure that I approach the showing of the property is I need to sell the reason why people love to live in Sarasota. So I'm going to need to talk about all the other cool things that are part of Sarasota. I may even drive the customer around to see some of the nice elements of Sarasota so that I can sell them on the city more than a property. I'll show them what they can buy with their money in this town. That's what they're looking for. But if they're not sold on this town, it's not going to matter what kind of house I can help them buy if they're not sold on this particular town. So you have to be able to recognize that, especially because we deal with a lot of people coming from outside of our area. Are they currently working with another agent? You might want to know this if you're out showing them property. I've been working with somebody in Sarasota, and then come to find out they have a different agent for Venice and a different one for Manatee, for Bradenton. I mean, that could be okay if I'm not going to cover those areas, but I would want to know that. Or they might be looking at property with another agent right in Sarasota on top of the place that I'm showing them. And that is because the consumer doesn't understand how we work. They think that going directly to a listing agent, there's an advantage. And it couldn't be further from the truth. There's not an advantage. There could be, but it's probably not likely. They might save 1% on the home, but you might be able to negotiate 5% off the home. So is it really worth it to go directly to the listing agent? I don't think so. I think it's better to have a buyer's agent on your team and to beat up the listing agent and the seller. But that's just my philosophy, and that's what I would try to convey to a buyer that thought that going directly to the listing agent was the way to go. Or they don't realize that you can show them all the property that's available. So you have to understand the mindset behind them is they're ignorant. They don't understand the process. Some of them do. Real estate's been around for a long time. Some of them do. But unless they have a friend or family member, they don't understand that, they don't understand the internal workings on how real estate agents actually function. So we want to convey the loyalty aspect. We want to convey that we can show them all the properties, that they don't have to use a different agent just to show a different neighborhood, that they can use you for all that. And so you want to make sure you clarify, are they working with another agent? And if they are working with another agent, are they committed to them? Because I've been the second agent, meaning someone's already shown them some property. Here they come along. I meet them at an open house. We start talking. We hit it off. And then they describe to me what they're looking for. And about 5 things go off in my head and go ding, ding, ding. I know of 5 things that probably would fit what you're looking for. Do you happen to have an agent that you're working with? And then they're going to go, well, yeah, we do. Well, how committed are you to them? Because I think I can find you the home. I can think of 5 homes that your agent hasn't shown you right now that I think you need to go take a look at. But why would I give them that information if they weren't going to use me? I don't get paid. I'm not going to give it to them. And I'm going to be, curt about it in a nice way. I'm just going to say, well, if you hire me, I got some other property that I can show you, especially if if you're not 100% committed to that other agent, I can take you out and show you these properties. Because there's nothing that says that I can't show a buyer a property or even talk with a buyer if you as an agent do not have a written agreement with them. So they're fair game. So if I can sway them away or steal them away from you and sell them something that I help them find, then I'm going to try to take the customer away from the other agent. This is part of the reason why this is a competitive industry. It's because you could lose your agent, you could lose your clients to other agents. Vice versa, if you're working with a buyer and they run across a savvy real estate agent and you don't have anything in writing to slow them down, they can be swayed away from working with you and work with that other agent. And you're not going to believe me until this happens to you. And it will happen to you. It's just a matter of when, okay? So all I can tell you is it's going to hurt. You're going to be betrayed. It's going to feel bad. And all you can do is just go next. And let me go find the next customer. And let me see if I can have a stronger relationship with my next customer, okay? So it's just part of our industry. It's going to happen. So be prepared for that, okay? Will they be paying cash or are they getting financing? Well, we all know that financing is getting better, but it's difficult to get. And what I mean by difficult to get is it's a trying process, especially if they're going FHA. If they're going regular conventional, it's maybe not quite as bad, but the new underwriting guidelines, all the new regulations just make it difficult to get a loan. So you don't want to run right out and make an offer on a property and expect to close a loan deal in 30 days. It's going to be more like 45 days. So you have to prepare the buyer for planning. And not only that, is if they are getting financing and they haven't even spoken to a lender, are they qualified? I mean, they think in their mind that they can get a loan, but they haven't spoken with a lender yet to verify that they can get a loan. So my question is, do you want to take an unqualified person around in your car or have them follow you in a car and spend gas, time, money, and energy trying to show property to someone that's not qualified to buy. So if they're not paying cash, then they need to speak to a lender to work with you. And so you need to say, listen, I understand that you're not going to be paying cash and you're going to be getting a lender. One of my requirements to go out and showing property is that you speak with a lender. I have one here if you like, or I have 3 of them that I can refer you to, but I'd like for you to talk with them today. It doesn't take but like 15 minutes to talk with them. They'll take down some basic information, and they'll see what you probably would qualify for. And so by understanding that you work a certain way will help you protect yourself to not showing property to unqualified people. So if that makes sense. So let's look real quick at how the buyer feels. Okay, understanding it's an emotional experience for the buyer. Okay, it's very scary. All right, they're working with a budget in some cases. It's a big investment. It's the most expensive investment that they make in their lifetime. I mean, you buy a car, it's $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $10,000, $5,000. You know, I'm not sure if too many people in here have $100,000 cars, but you know, we're selling $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 houses. That's a big loan, a big commitment to pay. So just remember that. It's also a long-term decision. You buy a property today, you can't turn around and sell it in 30 days and expect to, you know, make a profit unless it's, you know, you're buying it as an investment and a flip and you understand what you're doing. But what I'm just saying is that the average person, when they buy a property, they need to be in it anywhere from 3 to 5 years to recover the expense of actually buying that property, unless they buy it right, or unless we have inflation where prices are going up faster, you know, faster than, you know, in the marketplace. So that if someone bought something at $100,000, you know, in 6 months' time, it's, you know, $115,000. That's 15% in 6 months. $15,000 on $100,000 would be 15% in a year. If it was a year from now, that's incredible growth. You know, the average growth rate in real estate that's healthy is around that 6 to 8, 9%. But when we have exponential growth, which that's what we're in right now, these are the things that kind of cause bubbles. So we want to make sure that it's a long-term decision. It's the right house for them because they're going to be in it for a while, especially if they're living there and not buying it as a thing. The last thing to keep in mind, never to show more than 8 houses, okay, per day. We get exhausted physically and mentally. Your brain can only take in so much information about real estate in a given day on any subject matter. But a lot of times we try to do these marathon showing days because people fly in for 2 or 3 days, and you try to show them 10, 12, 15 houses. That may be the case, but I'm going to recommend if you have an opportunity, keep it under 8 properties. Because once you get up there around the 9, 10, 12 properties, they all start looking the same. It's got 3 bedrooms, 3, 4 walls, you know, just all sort of pointed in. They also then can't remember the property. They can't remember the first ones that they looked at. All right. So again, there's a little link right here. You can click on to maybe go check out some of the episodes from House Hunters that might help you with some of those kind of things. I think what I want to show you today is in the MLS, our next section is here I logged into the MLS, and all I've done was, I'll basically start over for you. So when you log into the MLS, and now you have a buyer that wants to go look at property. You've already sent out property, or maybe you have to pick the properties for them, and you need to go out and select the properties that you're going to show. So the first thing you got to do is you got to search the properties. So you got to do a quick search, or maybe they already have a search and you have some MLS numbers that they want to go see. Either way, you can do things. I'm going to search by the map. I always like to start with my map first. And I'm going to zoom down here to our area. Okay. And then from here, I'm going to pick a little area. I don't know why it's all dark like that. But I could start drawing things. You know why the map's all highlighted? There we go. So I can draw a diagram here and close off where the homes are that I'm looking for. Okay. So you can see I got a little nice shape area here, lots of homes that I'm going to be showing. I've selected over 128 homes. I don't really need that many, but I just wanted to search some properties. So now I'm going to come back over here to criteria. I'm just going to go ahead and click on results real quick. And then I'm just going to, randomly just select a few houses to go take a look at, okay? Let's just say I want to go look at this one, this one, this one. And we'll come out here to page 5. And we'll pick this one, and this one. So I have 6 properties that I want to show. I'm going to come back down here. I'm going to click on the Refine button, and I'm going to narrow my search down to the 6 properties that I've looked at. So now I have the 6 properties that I want to go out and take a look at. So I've created this other little page. I'm going to finish it. First I need to search the properties in the MLS. Then I need to read each property showing instructions. And then I want to group that houses in an area near each other. And you want to give yourself probably about an hour for each home, okay, and showing and traveling time between the properties. And when you're doing your timeline, you want to move it up by 15 minutes for each property. But the first property, you want to kind of jump about 30 minutes. And I'll kind of give you an example here. Let's just, since we're here, let's just say property 1. Okay, we're gonna show that at 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Okay, and then I probably should do this. All right, and then we have property 2 that we're going to show. My next property, I'm gonna start at, I'm moving 30 minutes, so I'm going to start at 12:30 to 1:30. Okay. And if the properties are near each other in the neighborhood, then this is when I jump down to my 15-minute increments. Okay? So I got property number 3 that I'm going to show at 1:45. To 2:45. And you'll notice that I'm giving myself an entire hour at the property. Well, I'm not going to actually be there that entire hour. But when you're showing a house, you may end up stuck at one house for 30 minutes because they like it, and that's okay. But the last thing you want to do is be rushed at a property that you're trying to show them to be able to, because you have another property that you got to get to. So you don't want to do that. So you give yourself plenty of limit, and you see that my times are overlapping each other, so that if I'm running ahead of schedule, I'm definitely going to be able to do that. And if I'm running behind schedule, I'll be able to make up the time. Okay? And so you can see, again, I'm just moving things forward by 15 minutes after I started my first one. My first one's 30 minutes. Why? Because I'm having to drive to that property. We're going to be talking an awful lot at that first property, setting up the showing ideas of what I expect from them, because I want to train them on what I want them to do while we're looking at property, and I like to make it fun. For instance, I have a grading system when I'm showing property, and my grading system is an A, B, and C system, and I'll kind of show you how that kind of works, and we'll even type that in here to our training. So I typically, when I get to the first property, I let them know, listen, folks, I want you to have fun, enjoy looking at these houses. Let's just go explore together. If you have questions, I'm going to try to answer them the best I can. Some questions I may have to do a little research on, but not a problem. But at the end of looking at each property, I'm going to have you grade it. It's either going to be an A, B, or C. A's mean you like the house, you can see yourself living here. We potentially could put an offer on this particular house. That is an A. A B is, ooh, this is really a nice house, what a nice surprise, but I'm not quite sure I see myself living here. It's just not quite a fit. And then C is, no way, no, this isn't going to work for me. You missed the mark, Kano. And so the reason I want the grading system and I want it simple is I'll say, listen, we'll come back to all the A's you want to look at. We can even take pictures. I'll get permission to take pictures or videos, answer all the questions you want about A's. But my goal today is we're going to look at A properties today. We're going to go out and take a look at them. I'm going to see if there's any A's. If they're all B's, that's okay. We'll keep looking. If there are some A's, then A's mean that we found something that's, livable. And so we can always have fun. So when we get to the property, I'm setting the parameters on what I want them to do at the property. One of the things I like to do is I like to use discovery. I think less is more. So I don't bring typically the full MLS sheet, or I may have the full MLS sheet and I have it in a folder, but I'm not sitting there walking around with it, or I definitely don't give them the full MLS sheet, because I don't want them really just sitting there looking at the stats and the statistical data on the data form. What I want them doing is looking at the house. I want them using their eyeballs and their feelings and their emotions and walking through and looking at the house. Not at a piece of paper and comparing the house to the piece of paper. I want them focused on the house. So I try to keep the paperwork in their hands down to a minimum, if that makes sense. And so I might give them just a little brief description on each of the properties that we're going to go out and see. And then, and I instruct them. If I met them at the property, I go through my little spiel. Hey, folks, I'm glad we're going out to look at the property. I got a couple rules I like to put in place, if you don't mind. One is I want you to have fun and just enjoy looking at this house and just have a lot of fun. I like exploring houses, so let's have some fun. Second is I have a little grading system that I like to use. A's mean you like the house, you can see yourself living here, it's a great house. I want you to put it as an A. A B house is it's a good house, nice floor plan, but just not quite for me. So that's your B house. And then C's are things that, no, I wouldn't consider this at all. And by the way, you don't have to look at any of these properties any further once you've decided what type of property it is. Meaning if we pull into a driveway and you don't even like the street, you don't even like the neighbors on either side, or the way the property looks from the outside, and you don't even want to go in, that's okay with me. Just say, you know what, this is definitely not for me, and let's not waste your time, because I'm here for you. It's not about me looking at houses, it's about you. So I want to make sure that you have fun, see the things that you like, and we enjoy ourselves. And so that's it. And I set the parameters, I open up the door, and then I explore with them. okay? I typically tell them, listen, you go through the house, explore, I'll wait back and just kind of answer questions for you. And so I tag along in a quiet way. I may point out certain things to them. Oh, wow, look at how tall these ceilings are. Wow, this is a really nice kitchen. Really, it looks like you got updated appliances. So I might point out features that I know are important to them. Like during our communication, they may say, oh, I want something that's kind of updated, or I might want something that has a large family room or a great room. So I've gotten to know a little bit about what their likes are, right? Because I did the search on the property. So I could say, oh, wow, look at this pool area. Isn't this nice? So I may point out some suggestions. I may also point out some negative things, but only if they start liking the house. There's no reason to beat up a house if they like it, okay? So if it's an A property, then I'll pay attention to the negative things. But if it's a B or C property, it's being ruled out anyway. Bringing up negative points just reaffirms the ruling out. My whole goal is to sell a house. I want them to have a positive feeling about it. I can tell you this, we all have probably bought houses here on the call, or bought a car. When the house is right, it feels right to the consumer. And they'll let you know that it feels right. So you have some people, some personalities that need to know all the details of everything. Whether they like it or not, they just need to know all the details about the property. Now, you know, you got to keep those kind of personalities in check. And then you have the very easygoing person that everything looks great. They'd just be happy that it has a roof over their head. So you want to make sure that that, you know, those people can then focus down onto their needs, okay, and that the home fits their needs. You also, if you're not familiar with an area, you want to make sure that you get familiar with the area ahead of time, okay? So now that we've gone over some of the steps of what you might want to do when you're showing property, and again, less is more. I don't pull out the full MLS sheet and hold that in my hand. I have it in a folder tucked away. I explore the property with them. One of the things they might ask a question might be, how big is this family room? And I might answer, I have the answer right in my folder. But I might say, well, gee, I don't know. How big does it feel? Does it feel like it's big enough? And so I'm going to use their emotions to try to compel them to see if the sense of the room is big enough. Well, how big is this master room? Yeah, I don't really know, but does it feel like it's big enough? Is this room big enough for you? Is that what you're looking for? Oh, look at the backyard. Is that the type of backyard that you were looking for? So this is how I make subtle suggestions to sway their opinion or point them in the right direction. And so I'm going to engage them and ask questions. But what I don't want to do is get into a bunch of engagements of really nitpicky questions and very detail-oriented questions if this is not an A property. So after looking at the home, we're exploring the home, I can see there's some interest there. And there's like, what do you think the electric bill runs? What do you think you know, this is? And I'm going to go through and answer that question. But then now they're breaking out the camera and they're starting to take pictures. And I'm going to say, listen, folks, I'm sorry to bother you, but is this the one? And I get quiet. I'm like, is this the one? I mean, you're taking pictures of the property. You're asking me all about the electric bill. I'm assuming these are reasons. If this is not an A property, then all that information is irrelevant. Okay, I'm only telling you that because you as an agent need to realize that, because you don't want people wasting your time. I'm not saying rush them, but I'm just saying you need to be a salesperson and recognize this isn't a good fit for them because it's not meeting their needs or criteria, and they even told you it's not an A. So all the details about the property are irrelevant because they're not going to buy it. And so you want to keep that in mind, because a lot of people will waste a lot of your time exploring something that's not a fit for them. And you have to recognize that so you can control the time. All right, I'm going to jump over here real quick. And now we have our properties that we wanted to take a look at, right? We have them checked. Here's a great little button. You click on the action button here. And if you click on the direction button right here, you can see your route of looking at these properties. And you can see I have a property way over here, and I got some properties over here. So I can move my properties around to all kinds of different locations. I don't even know where property number 5 is. I see where property 6 is, but I don't see where 5 is. Interesting. Oh, here's 5 along over here. So this is the route that it has me going. If I hover over one of these properties, maybe I want to reverse my route. Maybe I want to start out here first at property 6. I'm moving the right one up. And so you can move these around in the order that you want to look at them. And then you can, then you can get your directions, and it'll give you your route. Oops, sorry. It'll give you your route on the way that you'd like to take them. So this is a nice feature in the MLS. So you can just move these around and get them the way that you would like, and then you can print this out. You can even add a start and stop to this particular thing. All right, and then you again, get the directions based on the route that you've created, okay? So you want to play around with this, get your route right, the way that you want to go and look at the property. The information that you need to look at when you're showing the property is you click on the MLS number, okay, and you come all the way down here to the bottom section, which is right here. It says showing instructions. And it says request showing button, lockbox coded. All right, so there's no codes in here telling me where it is. If I want to show this property, I have to use the, it's telling me I have to use the showing request button. All right, so up here I would come and find the showing request button. And here's the showing request, show time request button. So if I click here, I can now then schedule myself a showing. Not all the properties are going to have this kind of showing technique. All right. So we want to, get things here, and then this would be the process you would need to go through to show that particular property. All right. So my next property that I need to look at, I just can click on next, and I come to my next property. I can see that my next property is right here. And then down here, my showing instructions for that one is 24-hour notice, call before showing, call listing agent, lockbox electronic. Well, guess what? I'm showing the property this afternoon. Do I have 24 hours to show this property? Nope. Especially if I'm showing property. So I needed to schedule this yesterday if I wanted to show it today. So now I have to go back to my route, change it, because now I have a property that I can't show. Now I may call the listing agent and follow the instructions and say, hey, look, my showing isn't until this afternoon. Do you think it might still be okay with your sellers to still take a look at it? And a lot of times if there's a 24-hour notice, it's because they have a pet or there's a tenant in place. All right, so I want to make sure that I get these things in order. The next one here, I come down here to my showing instructions. Owner occupied pet on premise. It says call before showing, call listing agent, pet on premise. So now I got to call the listing agent. So now I'm calling these folks and I'm leaving messages, and I still don't know whether I can show the property or not. So I have to wait for them to call me back, and before I can put it in my schedule. So I may have 4 or 5 phone calls out there to agents waiting for the call back. So I need to have a pretty good system of organizing myself as these phone calls come back in. And I can tell you, the only experience that you can have for doing this is to do this. Okay? And it will make you a much stronger real estate agent. Here's another property that I had selected. This one says call before showing, call center, listing agent must accompany. All right, so the listing agent must accompany. Not only do we have to coordinate with my schedule and the other properties that I'm showing, but now I have to coordinate to have the listing agent not have any appointments, and they have to be there too. So I may have to be flexible with the time when I'm showing this particular property. Okay, so I'd follow the instructions, and they may say, you know what, I can't be there at this time, but I can be there at this time, and you can look and flip-flop your properties around to see if you can make them fit into your schedule that way, and look at property that might be vacant in that gap area where you didn't actually need an appointment. And so you have a little section there that you can rotate things through. So things aren't going to always go smoothly in the direct way that you would like to go out and show the property. All right, if you're a new agent under 2 months, you should be looking at a minimum of 10 houses per week. I'd like to see you up to around 20 houses per week. And what you should be doing is coming in, setting up anywhere from 8 to 10 properties to go look at, going through this whole process of scheduling your showings, and going out and looking at property. Now, what kind of property should you look at? Well, I would recommend that you keep them fairly close, and you should pick areas in which you would like to know about and you would like to actually sell in, because you want to get familiar with the properties that are for sale. For instance, you would like, if you're looking to sell in a particular neighborhood, you need to look at all the properties that are available in that neighborhood. You should know every single one of them. And every time there's a new one that comes on the market, you should go look at it, because that gives you market knowledge. Market knowledge is when somebody says, hey, what about such and such? And you go, ding, ding, ding. Oh, I can tell you about that. That property has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and a den, and a pool, and looks on a preserve, and there's nobody in sight behind them. Well, you wouldn't know any of that information unless you went to the property. So you want to have market knowledge. Not only that, but you'll know whether this property down the street is a better value than this property, because price points are going to dictate differently as well. You're going to see why someone has their property priced higher than the property right down the street with the same square footage. What's the difference? It could be all the gingerbread inside, you know. This one has the heavy-duty nails. It's got the rain gutters. It's got the, barrier in the attic. It's got the reverse osmosis system in the sink. It's got granite countertops. It's got stainless steel appliances. It's got crown molding everywhere. And the other house is just the same square footage. It doesn't have any of that stuff. It has some mica countertops, and so there's a $60,000, $70,000 price difference. Well, what's the difference? Well, this property has a lot more upgrades. Upgrades cost money. Upgrades, yield a higher price for a particular property. So by going out and look at property, you get more market knowledge, you become more of a knowledgeable real estate agent, and it makes you more effective in the marketplace when you're talking with buyers and sellers. Not to mention, you might run across the for sale by owner, and everybody knows that we have the best for sale by owner program in the industry, according to Danielle. Just kidding. So these are the tasks that you have to go through to set up showings, to set up previews for yourself. Kind of hopefully you've got some tips on how to organize that. So I'm going to open this up to some frequent, for question and answer session, and see if I can get some very specific questions answered for you guys. So who has a question? Let's bring you up, Jody. So Jody, you were wondering what type of things you should probably say to somebody and how you probably go about showing the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's right. I believe less is more. I think the less you kind of say, just be friendly, have fun, kind of look at the property through their eyes with them, point out positive things, point out things that they mentioned to you that they had liked in the past, and they'd like to see in a house. I might point those out. But for the most part, let it be a thing of discovery if you have a grading process.
No, definitely, and that was you know, what Laura had said too. Like you touched on it. I mean, just letting them kind of go and say, okay, I'm going to hang back here. I mean, you know, I was kind of nervous letting them walk around a property without me being right on top of them, but like Nicole said, you don't want to be like right on top of them either the whole time, but you want to make sure that, I mean.
Okay, give you an example. If a property is furnished and they start walking, I want to be able to see them. For instance, right. they could be across the room from me, and I could be in the doorway of the, you know, going into the family room, but they could be the back section of the family room just looking around. If they go into the master bedroom, I might be in the doorway of the master bedroom while they're going to the master bedroom and then exploring the closets and exploring the bathroom. But I'm not going to be like holding their hand. Does that make sense? But I definitely want to keep eyeballs on them.
Yes, absolutely.
How about you, Laura? Did you have additional questions regarding that?
No, I don't. When I first started, I was previewing homes, and then also when I had my customers with me, I always jot down on the back of the MLS sheet all the important stuff that matters to them. So then, you know, I had in my notes so I know exactly what I should be looking for. And
that's fantastic.
I also did on the MLS, you know, you put all the homes in order. I also did that on my GPS, you know, first stop, second stop, and so it does really help.
Oh yeah, programming your GPS is very vitally important. Vitally important. Now, I use my phone as my GPS, so I just basically put in the address to the next property, and then we go from point A to point B. That's just my style, but I mean, you can use whatever technique you like. And I think that's very, very important. One of the things that I do what Laura just mentioned was I do flip the MLS sheet over, and I'd say, listen, you know, from this house, what did you like about it? I mean, was there some things that appealed to you in this particular home? I know this one's a B, but what did you like about it? By me asking that question, I learn more about them, what appeals to them. They go, you know what, we love this big great room. This dining room is just way too tiny. If they had like a real dining room, this probably would work, but we have a massive table and a hutch, and this won't fit in here. And so now I realize they need a nice-sized dining room and a nice-sized family room. And if I run across a floor plan that's like that, and then I might say, well, what do you think about the backyard? Or, you know, whatever information I can gather to make me more informed about what they're looking for, that's the key. I want to try to drill down. Jim, did you have any questions regarding this?
How much previewing are agents doing before showing a particular customer homes?
You know, to me, it was always about price range. Like, as a new agent, everything's new to me. I would try to go out like the day before, ahead of time, to preview some property if I had a client come in on Thursday, if I was a new agent. And the only reason why I say that as a new agent is because as an experienced agent, I have I have market knowledge already, general market knowledge. I may not know a particular community, but I have general market knowledge, and I pretty much can wing it when I get into a certain situation. A newer agent may not have that experience behind them. So a newer agent might want to really rely on their actual true knowledge. And what I mean by that is, if I'm showing homes between 250 and 350 on Thursday, I may take Wednesday and go out and preview them and go preview the 6 properties. That way, when I drive around the neighborhood, I get familiar with what I'm looking to show them. That way, when I'm showing them on Thursday, I'm much more comfortable. I've already seen the properties. I can point out some things, some details about the properties that match what they told me was important to them, and then I can go from there. But if it's a certain, once I get more experience, a certain price point, I wouldn't go preview. Like, for instance, under $500,000, I wouldn't be out previewing. We're going to go look at the properties together for the first time. But that's because I have some general market knowledge behind me. Is that helpful?
Sure.
All right, did I answer all your questions, or do you guys have some others? Because I'll stick around if you have more.